Welcome to our Cybertalks interview series. I'm Wyatt Cash on behalf of CyberScoop, and I'm here today with Aaron Faulkner, Managing Director at Accenture Federal Services and the Cyber Practice Lead at Accenture. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Wyatt. It's great to see you, and it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks a bunch.
Well, let me start by asking, there's been a lot thrown at Chief Information Security Officers in 2020. From your perspective and the work that you do, how has 2020 changed the trajectory of the CISO's role in recent months?
I think it's changed, frankly, in every way imaginable. Enterprises turn to their CISOs for, advice on security investments and architectures, policy, and certain TTPs within an environment. And as we've had to completely evolve to a remote workforce, I think that the CISO's role in particular has been an elevated position of how much risk can an enterprise and an organization really start to accept. And you think of some of our federal customers, our mission customers, or our Department of Defense customers that need access to highly sensitive information, applications, certain workloads, and some of that might only be accessible by an enabled tablet or laptop that can connect to those more sensitive data sources and applications, and they're doing that from their home office or their bedroom, and with their family member or neighbor just down the street, where otherwise they would have had the benefit of the brick and mortar fortress around them in a federal facility. So I think more than anything, the trust that the CISOs have had to be placed on them in terms of that just extraordinary new levels of risk acceptance. For me, that's the biggest change that we've seen so far in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Well, next, as you know, workforces are now so much more distributed than they were months ago. And what do you think that's taught security leaders when it comes to implementing security policies for their organizations now and going into the future?
I think there's probably three things that have come out of this, workforce, the security workforce that has gone remote. One, we've demonstrated and proven that we can still operate successfully remotely. We have 24/7 security operations where we have traditionally, of course, been co-located with our customer, and that's true in commercial as it's true in government, federal, state, local, you name it, where teams have been able to go be distributed, but continue to ensure environments are secure. Maybe have to invent some new ways of addressing security where they traditionally may have had for example, a physical appliance right there next to them that they could use for things like sandboxing of malicious software. And they could run that right there. But now that they went remote, they don't have access to that physical box. And now they have to find some new alternative solution, probably some type of SaaS capability, and make sure that it then is accredited and part of the new acceptable policies for use within that environment. So, good news is we've been able to do this work remotely and may continue to be very successful, but have had to find new workarounds for how we do that. I think the second thing is advantageous to our customers as well as the industry, which is this has forced the conversation around opening up security work to other geographies. So I've usually been asked by my customers to make sure that we have resources within some number of miles of the national capital region or other major cyber centers across the country, whether it's Huntsville or Augusta or even out in southern Arizona at Fort Huachuca, right? And so in the new conversation, frankly, our customers care a lot less about that. They want to know that they can have the best talent possible, whether they're in Alaska or Manhattan or in DC. And so that's really helped our organization and Accenture be able to recruit and deliver the talent that we need, no matter where they're located. So couple of thoughts there for you on that.
Well, next, I'd like to explore a little bit about emerging technologies and supply chain concerns. So, for example, IoT and 5G technologies continue to come online in the United States. And that obviously means more tech being brought in-house to handle those improvements. But with those improvements, come some supply chain concerns as well now. So how should enterprises collectively handle those concerns and yet still make sure we don't fall behind technologically?
Well, sure. As you know, the supply chain is incredibly complex. And even if we do things like ban the procurement of capabilities from some unfriendly, nation state countries, that doesn't necessarily get us the secure or supply chain that we need. And when you talk about things like IoT and all these new devices and how computing is now very ephemeral, the perimeter is long gone. We really need to address supply chain. I think the conversation around zero trust, around data access, who's accessing it, what that looks like laterally, that's where we are working with our customers to be focused, because we know we can't guarantee with 100% certainty that supply chain is clean. So we need to think about new countermeasures, new defenses to be able to address those concerns. I'd also say, and I applaud what the DoD is doing with things like the CMMC. Granted, a lot of it mirrors pre-existing guidance from NIST, but it's really kind of forcing, at least within the defense industrial base, kind of a cleaning up of one's act, whether it's improving your own security or being able to say, I know who downstream my supply chain is, and I have to be able to provide that information when requested, because I know an audit is probably going to be coming. And, it's no longer just that self-testifying or self-assessment, but it's similar to, there's going to be this third-party auditor that's going to come and say, no, you really are doing what you need to be doing or not.
Well, and lastly,
Sure.
as cyber threats continue to grow in sophistication, organizations, as you alluded to earlier, face a persistent challenge in recruiting skilled cybersecurity professionals. So how do we as industry and enterprises collectively kind of close those gaps, and in particular around sort of the education and training landscape?
That's a great question. Compared to where I think this industry was, even just going back 15 years, there are so many more institutions that have well-defined and mature training programs, well-defined certifications for cybersecurity professionals to achieve. You have undergraduate and graduate level programs of study pretty much everywhere. So we're seeing that sweeping change, which is good. So good news is we're getting more trained, educated people out of the pipeline coming out of those institutions and out of academia into the cyber workforce. The downside is a lot of those folks don't necessarily have a lot of hands-on experience just yet. And many of our government contract or customers, as you know, require 5 years or 10 years of experience before they'll let them in on that SOC operation, right? They want them to be experienced. So we've had to think about new ways that we bring our more junior workforce, get them the hands-on experience, and then be able to bring them and deliver them to our customers. The other thing that we're doing, and have been for some years now, is we're taking people who might not be traditionally have been growing up in a security role, and through shaping like a software engineer into somebody who is now writing and working scripting for us for things like our SOAR platforms, which help drive a lot of automation and orchestration within a security operation. Right, that's the newest and kind of probably most significant impact in a SOC in the last 10 years, right? We're now being able to kind of do things at a machine speed, and it's because of taking people who, again, weren't, a firewall engineer, maybe they were a software engineer, and again, taking those skills and helping them translate them into a security role. So it's a lot of organic training, shaping, and taking and assessing talent, just raw talent in people, and helping them become cybersecurity professionals.
Well, Aaron Faulkner, thank you for taking time to chat with us here at CyberTalks and sharing your insights with us.
Hey, thanks, Wyatt. Appreciate it.